Okay, I want to pick up the discussion of Hume's third major argument for his claim that moral distinctions are not derived from reason. And in the fifth edition of Schaeffer Landau, this argument occurs on pages 174 through 176 of your book. So here's the first premise. He says, if the thought and understanding were alone capable of fixing the boundaries of right and wrong, then the character of virtuous and vicious either must lie in some relation of objects or must be a matter of fact, which is discovered by our reasoning. In other words, he's saying, if reason alone could discover moral distinctions, then moral distinctions have to either be a kind of relation between things or have to be a particular thing, a matter of fact. And he wants to say neither of those is the case. First of all, he says in premise 2, morality is not a relation. And second, morality doesn't consist in any matter of fact, which can be discovered by the understanding. It's not either one of those things, he says in premise 4, and therefore, reason alone is not capable of fixing the boundaries of right and wrong. Now, all the action is whether he can defend premise 2, morality is not any relation between two things, and premise 3, morality is not any particular one matter of fact by itself. So let's look at his sub-arguments for each of those two premises, okay? We'll start with premise 2. What does he mean when he says morality is not a relation? Well, here's his idea, and he belabors this for about 7 paragraphs. I'm trying to distill the essence of it. He's saying if morality is a relation, well, then that would mean that non-human beings that stood in that same relation would also be moral beings. They would be standing in moral relations to one another, because that's impossible. Morality only applies to humans. So therefore, morality must not be a relation. Let me explain this. He gives us a couple of colorful examples. So you might think, look, let's take a terrible crime, like when someone assaults or perhaps even kills their own parents. You would think that's a terrible crime of ingratitude. And if you want to say the wrongness of this action lies in the fact of the relationship that the child has to the parent and the assault that they committed, ending its life. Well, consider a non-human example of the exact same relationship. Consider an acorn that drops from a tree and grows up and overtops the parent tree and blocks its sunlight and kills the parent tree. Would you say, well, the child tree is a murderer of its parent and is equally evil as a human that assaults his parents? Well, Hume thinks, no, that's crazy. The trees are innocent. They haven't done anything morally wrong. Well, he wants to say, the tree stands in the exact same relationship to its parent as the human does to the parent that it destroys. There's no different relationship that they're in. So morality must not consist in the mere relationship between two things. Or here's another example. If animals commit incest, they stand in the exact same relationships to one another as humans who commit incest. But do you want to say that incestuous animals have done anything wrong? Well, Hume thinks no, they obviously haven't. So whatever is wrong with human incest, it's not the mere relationship, because animals can stand in the same relationship guiltlessly. That's his argument. He wants to say morality isn't just a relationship between two objects. Any kind of relationship you can pick out is also going to apply to stuff that you don't want to say is actually moral or immoral. Okay, that's his argument for premise 2. What about then for premise 3? Maybe you want to punt and say, you're right, morality is not just a relationship, but it's a specific fact all by itself. And Hume's argument here is very simple, but at the same time, very powerful. He simply says, where is the fact of badness? Where is it? Show me the money. I can't find it, he says. He says, you take any action allowed to be vicious, willful murder, for instance. Okay, imagine an act of willful murder. You examine it in all of its lights and see if you can find that matter of fact or real existence, which you call vice. In whichever way you take it, you find only certain passions, motives, volitions, and thoughts. There is no other matter of fact in the case. The vice, the badness, entirely escapes you as long as you consider the object. So think about it this way. Let's say somebody just comes up and sucker punches me, right? Hume says, where's the wrongness? I mean, I see the fist impacting the face. I can measure and quantify Sasser's pain, right? Maybe you can psychologically measure in some way the feelings of hatred that inspired this fist that impacted somebody's face. Fine, there's the passions. I can see them. I can see the choice. I can see the actions. I can see the thoughts that inform this. But where's the wrongness? Where is it? Where's the badness? Is it here between the fist and the face? Is it in somebody's mind somewhere? What does it look like? Where? Quantify it for me. Point, can you touch it, taste it, smell it, feel it? Hume can't. He can't find it anywhere. So I don't see any moral facts. Show me the money. So that leads to what he says is, here's the only thing that you find. The only thing you observe is when you turn inward and think about your own emotions towards that action when you contemplate it, okay? You're never going to find the badness, the moral facts, until you turn your reflection into your own breast and find a sentiment of disapprobation. That means disapproval, which arises in you towards this action. So when I think about somebody punching me in the face, I think, boo. Here's a matter of fact, but that's an object of feeling, not of reason. It's something you feel. You feel that disapproval, but you don't, it's not something that you can discover in the action. It's a feeling you have towards the action, but not one that's in the action itself. It lies in yourself, not in the object, he says. So that when you pronounce any action or character to be vicious, you mean nothing but that from the constitution of your nature, you have a feeling or sentiment of blame from the contemplation of it. In other words, the badness, that feeling of badness, isn't something in the actors, it's something in an observer who thinks about the action. Well, what does that make Hume? Well, it makes him a kind of anti-realist. His position here is either a kind of subjectivism. Maybe he's saying that, well, the moral sentiments of someone who thinks about that action makes it true that the action is wrong or right. Maybe he's saying that. Or he might be a non-cognitivist. He might be saying that our moral claims, murder is wrong, expresses our feelings towards the action. Either way, he doesn't think that there's any objective fact out there in the action itself that makes it wrong or bad. So he's a kind of anti-realist. That is Hume's third argument.